Okay, we are here at the Fantasy Flight booth with Mark Larson, and as you can see just behind him there is a box of XCOM, the board game. And Mark's going to give us a little bit of a rundown of the components and what they do and a little bit of how a turn might work. So Mark, thank you.
Perfect. Hi. We've got XCOM, the board game, based on the very popular video game series with the same name. XCOM, the board game, is a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players. We're focusing on the world struggle, fighting against aliens here. The game has 4 different roles. Each player will take on one of the roles. We've got a chief scientist, a squad leader, a commander, and a central officer that'll take different aspects of the game, focus on those, and make sure that the aliens don't overrun Earth. During the game, each round is comprised of 2 different phases. So the first phase is a timed phase run by an app. That app is available on iOS, Android, downloadable on PC, web app, all those sorts of things. We're trying to get that app up to as many different people as possible, as easily accessible as possible. So the app will run a time phase, which will show different events that happen that you have to respond to in a timely manner. And when that's done, we have the resolution phase, where you resolve all the actions you've taken during the course of the game.
Okay.
So the 4 roles, you're sitting in front of the chief scientist. Their responsibility is to research technologies to make all the players better at what they do. So you have technologies that will gain extra money for the commander, or allow rerolls of dice, or bring back soldiers, prevent them from dying, things like that. They have a deck of cards. They use those to research different technologies. To the left of them is the squad leader. They're the ones that are in charge of all of the ground troops. There's 4 different kinds, much similar to XCOM. We have heavies, snipers, assaults, and support, represented by those different models there. They will be assigned to base defense, where aliens attack the base directly, or to missions to try and complete those to win the game. So the ultimate goal is to find the final mission, unlock that, and complete it to win the game. To the left of them is the commander. The commander is the one in charge of all of the budget at XCOM. So they have all those budget tokens over there. They will get a set budget at the start of every turn, and every unit placed on the board, whether it's a scientist, a soldier, a satellite, or an interceptor, costs 1 budget. And they have to make sure that they stay on budget and don't go over. They're also in charge of the interceptors, which are there for global defense. They shoot down any UFOs that spawn. And they also have a crisis deck of cards, which are events that happen during the game that negatively impact the players. So they have to manage those crises, choose what good crises depending on the situation in the game.
Okay.
And the 4th player is the central officer. The central officer is primarily in charge of the app. They will be the mouthpiece for the app, instructing players on what to do and when to do them. They are also in charge of placing UFOs on the board, making sure that those are placed correctly in a timely manner. And the satellites, which help to deflect UFOs. They have a lot of varying abilities depending on what the scientists can research for them. So they can use those satellites to move aliens around, or prevent guys from dying, or just remove UFOs from the board completely. So they have a lot of different abilities there. So the game is won, again, by completing that final mission. But the game can be lost in one of 2 ways. The first is we have over here a panic track, where the 6 populated continents are. And during the game, if UFOs are spawned in continents and not taken care of, each UFO on that continent will move that corresponding continent up one on the panic track. If 2 continents ever go in total panic, up here on the orange, the players lose the game. So you have to try and keep the continents from becoming too panicked. The second way they lose the game is by their base being destroyed. Enemies will be spawned over here in the base, and at the end of the resolution phase, for every enemy that's remaining, the base will take 1 damage. And if the base ever takes 7 damage, moves all the way to the end, the base is completely destroyed, the XCOM Pradesh is defunct, and the aliens win the game. They take over the world. So those are the 2 things that the players are trying to stop, to prevent them from doing. We can look at a turn now.
Sure.
So a typical turn is, let me set this game up here on the app. Actually, let me see. Let's see here. So the app will tell me how to set up the game. It'll tell me where to put the continents at the start, what kind of final mission we have, what kind of aliens are shuffled in the alien deck. We've got 8 or 9 different styles of aliens. They all play a little bit differently, so the game feels very different every time you play. That's all on there. I've got that already set up, so we can start round 1. And there will be commands that pop up on here that tell me what to do. So right here we have new technology available. So the chief scientist would draw technology cards. We can advance that further. Move on. Gives us a budget, how many credits we have to spend for that round. So it's 13 credits. And then we have different things. So this is enemy in the base. So we would spawn one of these enemy cards over here in the base, and as something for the squad leader to deal with later in the game. So different commands will come up. I continue them on. So we have a crisis. So the central officer, or I'm sorry, the commander would pick one of 2 crises. So increase panic in all continents by 1, or increase panic in South America by 1. That's a fairly easy decision. But they are, wide and varied effects there. Let's see. So things like assigned research. So the scientists will have a hand of research cards. Have a hand of research cards that they can choose to research. On the top corner is how many successes they need to research that, and then also what it does and who it goes to. So the different colors represent the different players. They also are labeled here in the box.
Okay.
They place down a research, and they can assign scientists to it. That is a primary way of researching equipment. That's one of the things they can do. Let's jump forward to a couple others. We'll have a mission that comes out over here. It's actually in the wrong section. There we go. These missions will have tasks on them. There's always 3 tasks. Some of them have symbols, some of them are blank, and that's where aliens will go. So we have aliens that will jump into those tasks there.
Okay.
And you can assign soldiers to that task, like such.
Gotcha.
Those soldiers also have symbols on them. And when you attempt a task, I got guys that actually can't do that one. There we go. You attempt that task, you want to match the symbol to the symbol on the task.
Okay.
If it is gold around its border, if you assign a soldier that is also specialized in that type of task, they get to roll an extra die.
Okay.
So it's a bonus. So that's assigning things to missions. Let's see, what else things will pop up? So we showed you crises. We'll also deploy, it will show you where to deploy UFOs on the board. It gives me a time to deploy interceptors to prevent them from finishing off the world.
Right.
And I also have a chance to deploy satellites to orbit. Orbit's kind of cool because that is one way that the app and the board game interact with each other. At the end of each round, I will specify how many satellites are still in orbit, and that will cause the app to shuffle its events around.
Gotcha.
So I have to do some events before I'm ready to I have full information.
Okay.
So deploy guys to the base before I have all the enemies there, deploy interceptors to the world before I know where all the UFOs are.
Okay.
So, once all the time phases are finished, we go to the resolution phase where we roll dice.
All right.
Each task has a unit assigned to it. So for the scientists, it's always our scientists. They roll 1 die for each unit assigned to that task, and they roll the enemy die to complete the task. So I need 1 success, so I roll these dice, and I got no successes, 2 blanks. But the threat die, I look at what the current threat level is over here. As long as the number is higher than the threat level, nothing happens.
Okay.
I can push if I want to and roll again, but by doing that, I increase the threat level by 1. Okay, so I'm gonna try again. So they get here. And I got 2 successes, 1 more than I needed. So the carapace armor would be researched and passed over to the squad leader for them to use later.
Cool. Awesome.
Had I rolled a number lower than or equal to the current threat level,
Yes.
I would still succeed, but my scientists would be exhausted. I can't use them next turn.
Okay.
So scientists and satellites become exhausted. Soldiers and interceptors are destroyed. They go to the central pool here, and they have to be purchased again by the commander later to buy them.
Gotcha.
So that's the central dice mechanic. It works similarly for everyone around the table.
Okay.
Scientists, satellites, interceptors per continent, and then soldiers do very similar thing.
And so all this is basically run through a real-time type of situation with the app.
Yep.
Where, so what is kind of like the trigger for the phase? So you'll hit like 5 minutes, and then now you've got to assess and see how many UFOs are on the board at that point.
Yep. The app will tell you when the round is finished. It's 3 to 4 minutes, roughly around there. That might be a little off, but that's what it feels like. And then we'll go through a resolution phase, and it'll walk me through the resolution on what to resolve. Crises are first, our purchasing guys are first, crises, and then we work around the board.
So you kind of pause the app, input everything, tell the app what happened, and then the app will kind of respond to it.
Yep, the app will then start round 2, and it'll have a time phase. So, yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
No problem. Excellent.